Facebook and YouTube listening, and those of you who are on my live, good morning and thank you for all the love. It is Talk the Things Tuesdays, and usually Talk the Things Tuesdays is a very, very fiery program, but I needed to start it this morning with that new PDP election song coming from Mr. Gideon King, and Mr. King is a talented young man, I think from the village of Mariah, and if it's one thing that I've been pleased to experience with this whole election campaign, the PDP has some of the best campaign music. It sounds so uplifting. It is music that you can dance to. It's music that little children would sing. It appeals to all age groups. So I just needed to start the day with that particular song. I heard it for the first time last week, Thursday, and I immediately fell in love. I was not aware of the original song that it was, sampled from. So when I heard the original, I was like, this is a really nice song, and I was dancing in the car coming down the road. But then I heard Gideon's take on it, and I was like, wow, this is an anthem. This song is an anthem, and it's an anthem that is going to take us through the next 13 days into General Election 2010. For those of you who were out with me last night and the entire PDP Spartan Army in the village of Blackrock, I say thank you to you guys for coming out and showing your support and showing your love and being with us on the road. Myself, Mr. Farley, and obviously our leader, Mr. Watson Duke. I mean, every day that we go out on the road, the drive-in gets larger, the crowds get bigger, the crowds get more animated, and even though we know what we're fighting for, we know what we have been experiencing for the last 5 years, for the last 20 years. The reality is that people just want to be happy again. People just want to dance. People just want to feel free. People just want to be liberated. And I think what that does basically, what that shows to me is that Tobagonians have just been tired of feeling used and feeling abused. And this is the first opportunity they've gotten to actually just free up, to just, wave a flag in the road, to just feel free to congregate. And for those of you, my brothers and sisters, who are waiting to join us because for one reason or another you can't come to our meetings, you cannot wear a black jersey, you cannot declare your allegiance publicly before election day, I'm saying 13 days, stay the course. Election night, we will dance. Election night, we will wave our flags. Election night, we will hug one another and remember how it feels to be free to support any party you chose. Because the reality is, I don't know what scares them so much about a PDP administration and governance. We don't care if he is PNM. If he is PNM, he could stay where he is, But we want to put together a coalition of the competent and the willing. So whoever competent and whoever wants to come on board, those are the people that we want around us. We're not asking you who you voted for before. We ain't even asking you who you're voting for now. All we want to do is associate ourselves with persons who really have the best interests of Tobago at heart. I have met some persons, they are members of the PNM, but they are patriotic, they are Tobago-centric, they love their island. I have met some PNM people who could care two hoots about where Tobago goes. They're just more concerned with family and friends, and that exists in all political parties. But the reality is that Tobago is too small for the amount of division that I'm seeing. And I'm seeing that people should be left to enjoy things. So I needed to start with that song. That song really just that song really lifts my spirit. So Gideon, if you are on the live, your talent is a blessing from God. Your talent is to be used to uplift his people, and you have a gift, and I'm happy in this time you are using your gift to uplift the people of Tobago, because it's not just PDP people who will be listening to this song. It will be people across Tobago, people in Trinidad, people internationally, and the song just speaks to the heart of who we are. We black and we proud. I mean, we come from Africa, so we are black people. And to me, when I hear music like this can endure the test of time. You can listen to it outside of election season. Yes, it is talking about the PDP, yes, but you see that refrain, we black and we proud, that part gets to me. That part, every time I hear that part, I stood on stage last night right before I was supposed to speak. And if whoever was there and whoever was watching, you could see that I put my hands over my face and I looked up to the sky. And in that moment, I honestly felt like breaking down. I honestly felt like if my emotions were washing over me in that moment, because I never thought that I would live to see the day that I would stand on a platform, far less to have a forum to speak to my people, far less to have a forum where my voice was so powerful that I walked off after I was drained. That 20-25 minutes that I spoke, I was drained. But every time I speak, I always pray. Anybody who comes to all the meetings would see me pacing in a corner every time before I speak, because I never plan what I say. I'm actually pacing because I'm praying. I'm praying to God to give me the words. I'm praying to God to put in my heart whatever it is the people need to hear, so that when you hear me speak, it ain't me. I don't take credit for none of that. I take no credit for the gift that the Lord has laid on my life. It is all Him, so that when I stand in front of you, I am speaking what He has said to me in my heart to say to you. And last night, just seeing this group of persons who were happy to just be alive and be in this space and wear their PDP jerseys and wave their PDP flags. I saw old persons, I saw young people, I saw little children, I saw all manner of persons just gathered together as a family. And that is what I love to see. That is where I want this island to go back to. That is what I want to see. So when the DJ asked me, what song do you want to go on to? I said, give me that new Gideon King. I want that song. I love that song. And that song, I think that would be my new entrance song, because that song does something to people. That song takes you to a higher level. That song takes you to a different place. And as I said, Mr. King, you are blessed. Continue to be blessed. I pray all God's blessings on you as you go forth in your career. Pray all God's blessings on you and your family. May you be guided and protected. May you never forget where you come from, because sometimes people get famous and they may forget where they come from, but you seem to be such a genuine, humble young man. I pray that you keep that spirit about you, So I really kind of had to start off on that note, because Talk the Things Tuesdays, I know, takes us to different places all over. I mean, last night we had the appearance of Dr. Vanish James on our platform, and I thought that to be that's a watershed moment in history. I've always looked up to Dr. James because he has always, been an advocate for Tobago's development, and I've been following him for a number of years now. And everything that he has done in this space has been with the advancement of the interests of all the persons who live in Tobago. And he's never really come out in support of any one political party or another. He's just always kind of given of himself, given his expertise, given of his time and his talents, hoping that the persons, whoever are the persons in authority, would take what he says seriously, do the groundwork that is required, just have Tobago's best interests at heart. He's a man, he's always had Tobago's best interests at heart. And to see Dr. James, now I saw him sitting quietly on the basketball court, and I was like, wow, Dr. James is present tonight. And I did not have any idea that he was going to speak. And when Dr. Vanish James started to speak, my goodness, we have no clue the kind of talent and human resource that we have on this island, the kind of man that exists in the person of Dr. Vanish James, putting aside even his academic portfolio and his academic prowess. Miss Dr. Vanish James is an eloquent platform speaker. Dr. James, in his simple style of delivery, because he's a little piece of man, in his simple style of delivery, he was able to bring over to Tobagonians why they should choose the PDP in this election. And anybody who had never listened to any of PDP's speeches before, none of their speakers, not Mr. Duke, not Farley, not any of our deputy political leaders, not myself, if they had never had any interaction with the party before last night, and their first interaction was listening to Dr. Vanish James last night, I don't see how anybody could be convinced, based on the arguments he put forward, that he not talking sense. Dr. James really summed up summed it up best as to why it is time for Tobago to make a different and better choice in the form of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. We have demonstrated that we have the interests of the people of Tobago at heart. When you look at the persons in the caliber of Mr. Duke serving in his communities, the persons in the caliber of Mr. Farley Augustine, when you look at Dr. Faith, when you look at Mrs. Alicia Roberts Patterson, when you look at all the other persons who are our party group leaders and who is in charge of our youth network, and all of the other persons who have come forward to give of their time and give of their talents and give of their service to the people of Tobago, the PDP is a vehicle that is attracting all the persons who are competent and willing. That coalition of the competent and the willing. We never say only PDP people must be involved in advancing Tobago's interests. No, we are saying that all persons, whether you live in Tobago, whether you live in Trinidad, whether you live outside in the diaspora, anywhere you are in the world, once you are able to contribute, you have a connection to Tobago, whether you lived here, whether you were born here, whether you marry a sweet like Kezabal Tobago girl, whether whether you just came to the island, you visited and you fell in love, whoever you are, once you have a connection to Tobago, you are part of that coalition of the competent and the willing. And the PDP is saying this is the vehicle, and this vehicle is willing to accept all who want to rock and come in and rock with the PDP message and rock with the PDP mandate and rock with the fact that PDP wants to get things done, that we are about people before politics. People deserve performance before old talk. That is what we are about. So when Dr. James stood up last night and he spoke and he gave, I think it was 5 reasons why persons in Tobago should not continue to support the PNM, and that was it for me. The campaign could have finished right there. The meeting could have been finished right there. Because Dr. James is a man, I know that he, again, as I say, our Tobago people, we are long-suffering. And he, as a man, has been on the outside looking in for all these years, advising politicians come, politicians go. He has always been in that circle. But for him to get so fed up of the status quo, so fed up of what has been passing for good governance, so fed up of what has been passing for accountability in public life, and for him to just step out and do what he did last night, that says something to Tobago people. And I want Tobago people to mind all your business, because we're talking the things today. It says that our elder statesmen and women on this island can no longer sit idly by and see a bunch of children sit down in the Tobago House of Assembly that they work so hard to build and ransack the house. That's the bottom line. We have had a bunch of children who have been sitting in the assembly playing musical chairs, whether it be in front of cameras or behind closed doors, just jostling for position, jockeying for power, right? Imagine 4 people enter the leadership race. And I'm just saying this as an aside. And what was sold to the population was that this leadership race, the ultimate prize was the chair of the chief secretaryship. That was the ultimate prize. 4 persons enter a race. None of them are chief secretary for today. None. So after they spent all this money, in fact, the internal election campaign looked far more money spent there than their own general election campaign here. I could swear the internal election campaign was their general election campaign, right? All kind of digital billboard and all kind of thing, right? 4 persons entered a race. They say race for power, whatever. That was the term that they used. Race for power. And at the end of the race, none of them won the prize, the ultimate prize. None of them are chief secretary for today. And they're outside in the background, still fighting and jostling and jockeying for position in a house that they never built. In a house that their party never wanted to be built. Let me talk the things, because they always conveniently leave out that part of the history. The part of the history that says that the PNM was vehemently opposed to the formation of the Tobago House of Assembly. That they were opposed to the idea of giving or granting Tobago extended powers or greater autonomy. 2000. Not fact if I can't verify it, but I hear it from somebody live, and they're recording everything that we have to say. Yeah, so the other night when Mr. Duke made his slip, even before he could think about it, it was already out on social media. So don't think for 1 second. I know they are listening. Good morning to you too, whoever you are, wherever you are. Yeah? I'm reading from page 160 from the Hansard report, from that same Dispute Resolution Commission report that was laid in the Parliament on October 23, 2000. And I always like to come back to this particular report because that was a very pivotal moment in Tobago's history. It meant that Tobago had taken and we were fed up of begging on the outside, similar to how we fed up begging now, eh? It's like every 20 years we had to go begging. So we get fed up again. Like we just get fed up in 20-year cycles. So this is another 20-year cycle coming up upon us where we gain fed up of begging. So usually in 20-year cycles, something has got to give. So I'm happy that this year is a general election and next January is a THA election, because it tells me that something has got to give and something will give this time around. Because maybe Tobagonians give politicians 20 years to see how well they do. And if that is how we operate, then I can say that the PDP will at least have 20 years to transform Tobago. I would be happy to see that, because after 20 years of the PDP, we should not be able to recognize the Tobago that we live in. We should be so first world. We should be so advanced. We would forget the 20 years of suffering that we had previously. Yeah. So I'm reading from that Hansard report and the words of Dr. Rowley, because he's our current Prime Minister, and at the time he was an opposition member of Parliament. And I always say, judge them by their actions and their words, and the things that you say can come back to haunt you. So let me read what Dr. Rowley said. So he was referring to the fact that Tobago had to actually trigger the clause in the THA Act to have the Dispute Resolution Commission constituted, because there was a dispute between the Tobago House of Assembly and central government. And the Dispute Resolution Commission acts as arbiter in that dispute when it comes to the budgetary allocation. So their sole purpose is to look at the dispute that arises because of the budgetary allocation. Yeah? So he was referring to the fact that the dispute had to be triggered. So let me start reading from where he indicates his feelings about the matter. Yeah? So these are the words of Dr. Rowley, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. We empathize with this situation. We cannot support free for all in Tobago. We cannot support government neglect. And we cannot support political game playing, and that is why. If this is what the Commission has said on behalf of the people of Tobago, I would reluctantly support it. It is not the best arrangement, but if this is what they say, I will reluctantly support it. However, I serve notice that I will demand accountability at every level in Tobago, whether it is from the public service or at the level of the executive of the Tobago House of Assembly. I will demand accountability, and for those who cannot account, I will support any move to have the full force of the law brought to bear on their indiscretions. Dr. Rowley, you made this statement 20 years ago when you were speaking about the then UNC-led government. You said that you would reluctantly support the report, reluctantly. And I spelled out your reasons weeks ago as to why there was your reluctance on that side. You felt that public servants have no business being arbiters in the business of governance, that it should not have reached to that level. That's what you said, right? But you served notice as a then opposition member of Parliament that you in your opposition place would demand accountability, that you in your opposition place will demand accountability from the public servant or the politician who sits in the chair. that you will demand accountability, and for those who cannot account, you will support any move to bring the full force of the law upon them for their indiscretions. Have you requested a report as to the missing monies that went into the fake Virgin account? Have you requested an update on the monies that was paid to a particular artist to appear in our jazz festival and he never appeared and we never got back any money? Have you asked the current leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM to account to you for the money that was spent on Manta Lodge and Sanctuary? Have you asked for anything? Accountability only seems to be good, right? Accountability only seems to be good when you are on the outside bashing somebody. But now you are on the inside and it is your party members involved. You are silent. You are silent about the lack of accountability in the Tobago House of Assembly that is led by the PNM Tobago Council. All of a sudden, no demands for accountability from them. For the last 20 years, the Auditor General has not been able to qualify any accounts presented by the Tobago House of Assembly. But you are silent on them being accountable to the taxpayers, to the people, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago for their stewardship. Being accountable to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago for how taxpayers' money is being spent and expended. You are silent about that. You are silent about that. I have read from the Hansard. I have put your words in the public domain because your words are there to see. Anybody can go and research the Hansard and see that. That you have demanded accountability while sitting on the opposition side, but you are now in the chair as Prime Minister. You are now in the chair as Prime Minister, and it is your responsibility as Prime Minister and the head of cabinet to ensure that all taxpayers' funds that is expended is properly accounted for. You are the chief accountant. And I've read here that you have put the Tobago House of Assembly on notice 20 years ago, even before they went in. Because at the time, it was led by Mr. Ho Choi Charles and they were voted out in 2001. Mr. Orville London went in. And since then, I have not ever heard you ask for accountability. I've never heard you bring them to bear. For the fact that money can simply go missing, simply disappear into thin air, simply go into a fake account, simply be paid out for a performance that never happened, and maybe countless other things that happened during that period when there was no opposition in the Tobago House of Assembly. And all of a sudden, you are silent on accountability. But you want an opposition party who has never been in government, never held the seat of governance in this country, to tell you where they're getting their campaign financing from. But the institution that exists to manage the affairs of Tobago had access to billions of dollars of taxpayers' funds, but you have no interest in asking them to account for what they have done with public monies. I have a problem with hypocrisy. I have a serious problem with hypocrisy. A serious problem. Because at the end of the day, what you don't want for yourself, you can't want for somebody else. You want to hold any opposition party that goes in there to account. You want to have the sword to their necks for them to account for every last dollar. And you have a right to do so if it exists in law. But you cannot have one law for the people on the outside. You cannot set the bar so high for the person who wants to come in and do better than what was being done before. But the people who are there now, you have nothing to say to them. You cannot use your same voice in the same vociferous manner that you did before and demand accountability from them publicly. You are the Prime Minister. They have to answer to you. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that you and them are of the same party. You are the country's chief accountant. At the end of the day, if there are questions that are hanging over the head of the THA, and those questions are about accountability for public funds, they have to answer to you and by extension, the people of this country. And the people of this country have a right to know. We have a right to know. Those of us who live in Tobago have a right to know. And those of them who live in Trinidad as well, because there is this pervading sentiment that Tobago is a burden on the treasury. And that thought doesn't necessarily come from the fact that we get this check every September, because I think Trinidadians think that the government writes this check for $2 billion every September and hands it over to the THA, and we do free sheet with it what we want. You would be so surprised at the amount of Tobagonians who are disappointed in our elected officials at the lack of accountability that exists at the level of the THA. A number of us are very, very disappointed in their stewardship. So that when they ask for 4.7 billion, but they cannot account for the 2.5 they does get, any government in their right mind giving them what they asked for? No, it's not going to happen. And that is why Tobago's development is always stagnated and stymied, because persons who sit in the positions of power in Tobago cannot be trusted, and they have demonstrated that they cannot be trusted. You ask for $5, I give you $2. I ask you where you spend the $2 on. You tell me you take 50 cents, you buy a solo, you can't remember where you put 50 cents, you lend out 25 cents to somebody, you rest down $1 and you can't. That is what we get in. That is what we are getting. That is what we have been getting over the years. And it's time enough that we activate the mechanisms that exist, because I'm quoting from the words of Dr. Rowley here. I serve notices. You said that, not me. You said it. I serve notice that I will demand accountability at every level of Tobago. Were those words only good for an opposition party in power in the THA, or are they good for all? Are they good for all? Your party has demonstrated that accountability is the last thing on their agenda when it comes to managing the affairs of Tobago people. And they feel that they don't have to account to us for anything that they do. And that is when you know it's no longer governance, it's a dictatorship. And Tobago has been existing under a dictatorship for a very, very long time. A very long time. And you have presided over a creeping dictatorship that grow legs overnight and walking and running down the road. That is what you have presided over. That is what you, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, have presided over for the last 5 years. A creeping dictatorship that grew legs overnight and is running down the road pell-mell. Not even looking back. You said, I will quote your words again, I serve notice that I will demand accountability at every level in Tobago. That is what you said. You will demand accountability. Where is your call for accountability now? 20 years later, you all sell this idea to Tobagonians that PNM in power in Trinidad and PNM in power in Tobago equals good governance. No, it never equaled good governance. It equaled a free pass for assemblymen and women on that side and councillors on that side to do what they felt, to do what they pleased with public funds. That is what it meant. It meant the entrenchment of a dictatorship in the form of the PNM in Tobago. That is what it meant. Because Tobago never prospered under PNM in Trinidad and PNM in Tobago. Let me talk the things. Let us talk the things. Let us be real. Dr. James said it last night. Everything that we have ever fought for and received on behalf of the people of Tobago has come with opposition support. That Tobago House of Assembly came into being with opposition support. Right? But all I wouldn't say that. Later in the same Hansard document, I read Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, his contribution that the then UNC government wanted to give Tobago full autonomy. And Dr. Rowley also had an objection to that. I want all to read. Pull up the Hansard. I want all to read, because it's not what I say and it's not what tongue say. It's what they said 20 years ago. That the PNM has always been reluctant to give Tobago full autonomy. And I don't even like the word give. I hate the word give, because it's not something you have hole in it for me. This is supposed to be a level playing field. The relationship between Tobago and Trinidad should have been renegotiated a very long time ago. This is not you holding an apple for me and I come to you and I ask you to give me the apple and you have a choice whether or not you give me the apple. When I reach by you and you know it's the apple I want, you're supposed to give it to me. I shouldn't have to ask for it. And that is the reality. That is the reality. This notion in the mind of a central government in Trinidad that they have all the power and they are holding power over the heads of 60,000 people in Tobago, and that the people in Tobago must send their representatives or send their politicians or send their emissaries to go and ask for something, when this is something the people of Tobago are entitled to. I want all of you to understand what that means. Tobago is entitled to its autonomy. It's not something that we have to go and ask for. It's not something that we have to go and beg for. It's not something that we have to go and plead for and go before a joint select committee for. It is something that we are entitled to. And if successive governments, whether PNM or UNC, did nothing to assist Tobago to bring itself up to a level of economic independence, so that when we receive our full powers granted under autonomy, that Tobago can stand on its own within the relationship, within the partnership, within the union of Trinidad and Tobago, then successive governments have failed the people of Tobago. Let me talk the things. It's not just PNM. Successive governments have failed Tobago. Successive politicians have failed Tobago. And we have sent persons down the road to speak on our behalf who have failed us. They have failed us. The purpose of any Tobago MP right now, in this time, is to bring home that autonomy issue for Tobago. That is the purpose of a Tobago MP. And when Tobago gets its full autonomy, the purpose of the MP is to advocate on behalf of Tobago people and the Tobago House of Assembly in Parliament. Because there's nothing in the Constitution that gives the chance, the opportunity for the Chief Secretary to stand in Parliament and speak on behalf of Tobago. He doesn't have that opportunity. I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen. And I don't know if a provision exists for it to happen and it's just never been used. And if the provision does exist, I implore any Chief Secretary who goes in that chair to use it. I've said it before, I want to live to see the day when I see my chief stand up. And maybe the day will come when Farley, as my chief, would stand in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago and be able to speak to all Trinbagonians about the stewardship, about the leadership of the Tobago House of Assembly, how he turned around the organization, how he turned around the institution, how he turned around the island. I would be proud to see that day. But in the meantime, in the absence of that happening, the two MPs, their role is to be the chief advocates for the Tobago House of Assembly in Parliament. Because the THA don't have no seat in Parliament. The THA has no voice in Parliament except through its two MPs. But when you have MPs, and this is a point that Farley made last night, they just jump up and say, oh, do you go in and give the 2 seats to UNC? As if it's 2 mango. You know, you pick 2 mango from your tree and you go and give it to your neighbor. Do you go in and give the 2 seats to UNC like if it's 2 mango? Like 2 whole seats could be like 2 mango that you just give it to somebody. But we don't talk about the fact that election cycle in and election cycle out, 2 MPs in Tobago just pick 2 Tobago mango and give it to the PNM, same speed. What is the difference between the PNM and the UNC? Probably just color. What is the difference between the PNM and the UNC in Trinidad? Color. The 2 Tobago seats should never be given to any political party in power. It's not 2 MPs' role to give. If the people of Tobago say that they want to form a coalition with a party, the people of Tobago have the right to say that. But no 2 MPs have the power to go and take the seat that they were elected to sit in. Because it's people elect you, you didn't vote for yourself. Because if you vote for yourself, that is just 1 vote. People elected you to do a job. And if when you go down there, the rules of engagement have changed, the rules of engagement require you to come back to the people and say, look, this is what's happening down the road. What do you want me to do? Because at the end of the day, you must always represent the voice of the people. That is what you are there for. That is why we have elected politicians, and when politicians fail us, we throw up our hands in the air, but politicians could never get it right. When you elect representatives, when you elect people who know their role, know how important their role is, and hold no brief in playing that role, that's when things happen. Dr. Murray and Mr. Robinson knew their role. They knew what they were going to Parliament to do, and they did it. They did it. When Pam Nicholson and Mr. Auguste went to Parliament, they knew their role, and they performed it exceptionally. Right? So let us not get confused. Let us not get it twisted. Just as fast as they say somebody could get 2 seats to the opposition in Trinidad, they have been blindly handing our seats to a PNM government. And when PNM government there and PNM government in Tobago, Tobago have no voice. Dr. James said it last night. You think Shamfa, Ayan, and Ayana could have walked up to Dr. Rowley and say, Dr. Rowley, when are you bringing the Tobago Autonomy Bill to Parliament? They couldn't even ask a question. They could not even ask a question. They were only allowed to speak when they were given the opportunity to speak by the leader of government business. 13 times your MP for Tobago West stood up in the Parliament and spoke for 5 years. 13 times. That translates into less than 3 times per year. I wonder if all you understand that. Less than 3 times per year. And they were paid, each individual was paid in the region of $3 million each in salaries and allowances. $3 million over the course of 5 years to serve in government. And you only spoke in the House less than 3 times per year. And how many of those times did you speak wholly and solely on behalf of the people of Tobago? 0 times. 0 times. 0. 13 times you spoke over 5 years. You spoke no times wholly and solely on Tobago matters. 0 times. Is that performance, Tobago? That's the kind of representation you want? Is that the kind of representation you are happy with? If that is the kind of representation that you are happy with, but then you know where to put your X on election day. But if you want to elect a representative in Parliament who is going to use their voice at every single opportunity, because as 2 independent members of Parliament, we do not bow to a leader of government business. Neither do we bow to an opposition chief whip. We can stand and speak whenever we please. Trust me, I would lose my voice 10,000 times over the course of 5 years advocating on behalf of Tobago and advocating on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly. That is my role. That is my function. Let me go back to what Dr. Rowley said, because I want all of to remember by their words. Your words always come back to haunt you. Ensure that the things you say are the things that you can stand by. So that if somebody reads back your words to you, are talking about today on Talk the Things Tuesdays is accountability. I serve notice that I will demand accountability at every level in Tobago, whether it is from the public service or at the level of the executive of the Tobago House of Assembly. I will demand accountability, And for those who cannot account, I will support any move to have the full force of the law brought to bear on their indiscretions. Dr. Rowley, I'm calling on you today to bring the full force of the law to bear upon this current Tobago House of Assembly administration. Walk your talk. You have the Auditor General's Department. You have the Office of the Ministry of Finance. You have the FIU. Some of these persons, they have wealth to explain. Follow the money. Follow the paper trail. Bring the full force of the law. Bring the fraud squad. Call for a forensic audit. What are you afraid of? This is not your money being spent. This is taxpayers' money that has been spent and cannot be accounted for. You have a responsibility to the people of Tobago and by extension the people of Trinidad and Tobago to make the Tobago House of Assembly, led by your Tobago Council counterparts, make them an example. Have them account for their stewardship. Have them account for public funds. I am making that call this morning because I'm pretty certain, I will bet any amount of money, Dr. Rowley, that if it was an opposition-led Tobago House of Assembly, you would have never allowed this to slide. You would have never given them a pass. I using your words. They would have never get a pass. You would have been down the throat. You would have been down their throat to account for taxpayers' funds. So the same energy you have to ask the PDP to tell you where our money is coming from, find the same energy to ask the members of this sitting Tobago House of Assembly executive to account to the taxpayers. Where taxpayers' money gone? It has been far too long. Technology exists. So is it that there is a concerted attempt, a deliberate attempt, a purposeful attempt to cover up wrongdoing in the THA? Because it's your people, I had to ask the question and I had to talk the things. All the time, they have been paying money into a Virgin Atlantic account to pay for flights to come into Tobago. 1 month, the payment goes to a different account. Somebody had to know who gave the information. Somebody had to do the checks and balances. Somebody had to be assured, at least with the information that was presented to them, that this account was legitimate. And if the procedures were followed and somebody signed off on a payment and that person willfully participated in fraud against the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Rowley, this is your PNM-led Tobago House of Assembly. They have questions to answer. They have questions to answer. And they have serious questions to answer. $10 million could do a lot for the people of Tobago. $430,000 could do a lot for the people of Tobago. And it cannot be that you give us a flippant excuse and say, oh, it's before the fraud squad. We need an update. The people of Tobago are demanding an update from all the agencies who have the opportunity to investigate this matter. We are about the people's business, and this matter of accountability is the people's business. Why do we have a Tobago House of Assembly that is acting like a law on its own? That it does not even account to the government of Trinidad and Tobago? That every year they submit their documents asking for money to expend in a new fiscal year and cannot account for all the monies that they received in the previous fiscal year. And that requires some reform. That requires some reform. I would advocate for such strict measures to be put in place that if you cannot account for all of the monies that you were given in the previous financial year, that no more disbursements will be given to you until you account for that money. And that is how the people will hold these politicians to account. Because when the people suffer, the people will suffer. salaries can't get paid, suppliers cannot get paid, goods and services cannot be procured. It would mean that the politicians have to do their work. The politicians will have to do their jobs. The politicians would have to make sure and account for every last cent they receive in taxpayers' funds. You have sitting assemblymen writing legal letters to the Joint Select Committee saying that they cannot appear. Mr. Kelvin Charles did that. Wrote a letter, a legal letter to the Joint Select Committee and refused to appear. Right? A body that exists to hold statutory bodies to account, that is enshrined in our Constitution. And you have politicians refusing to subject themselves to questioning. That is where we reach Tobago. Let me talk the things. What all you hiding so? What all you hiding so? You all have serious questions to answer. And when they come by your doorstep, I want all you to ask the questions. Ask them. They'll come by your doorstep. They will send their representatives because they're kind of ashamed to come on their own. They'll ask. They'll ask for your vote. They promise you a food card. Tongues say that they're giving out URP jobs. That's what you're worth, Tobago? That they come in the election season and flush. They're trying to employ as many of you in make-work programs. Is that what you are worth, Tobago? I'm asking you to stay the course. Hold a little bit of strain. Because the bread, the crumbs that you give up today and hold the gas pain is the feast you will eat tomorrow. I'm asking Tobago to hold a little strain. August 10th coming just now. August 10th coming just now. January 2021 coming just now, my people. For those of you who want to call in to talk the things Tuesdays, the number is 717-9591. That number again is 717-9591. Those of you who want to send me a message, the text line is 734-6355. That number again is 734-6355. I think I need to play that Gideon King again. I think I have it playing in the background. I'm going to play it for a little while because the rain has started to fall and it's a little bit gloomy, but that song raises my spirits and I hope it does the same to you.
Black is beautiful. PDP, PDP, yes we black and PDP, PDP, total black. PDP, PDP, black is beautiful. PDP, PDP, we got black kids. PDP, PDP, Charlottesville to we voting for PDP. Voting for PDP, black and we pro. PDP, voting for PDP. This is a black hole. Voting for PDP. Collaboration. PDP, PDP, black and pro. No weapon form against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. Falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP, we black and we brown. Voting for PDP, total PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. PDP, we black and we brown. Them tomorrow. Black and proud the guy. Love with Tobago pride. One friend you can touch your Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears up our people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the pain and blight. We pro PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Them tomorrow, no weapon form against PDP, PDP. Just set you higher Black when we touch the road. In with PDP t-shirt. Black. Voting for Tashia Boris. Voting for what's in the oak. Black like charcoal. Black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro. PDP. This is a black code. PDP. We voting for PDP. Vote up PNM. Pharaoh and his men. You won't see them tomorrow. No. This is a black code. PDP. We black and we pro. PDP. We voting for PDP. Vote up PNM. Pharaoh and his men. You won't see them tomorrow.
I just had to play that song again. Rain is pouring down on my side. It is Talk the Things Tuesdays, Tuesday 28 July 2020. A very, very rainy Tuesday in Crown Point. We are at the Street 91.9 FM morning program. My name is Tasha Grace Boris, PDP candidate for Tobago West. We're talking the things because today is Talk the Things Tuesdays. But while we're talking the things, we could take a little dance. So I hope you took the opportunity to take a little dance wherever you are. Home, office, car, standing on the side of the road in the rain, just keep safe and be blessed. So I was talking about the lack of accountability that exists at the level of the Tobago House of Assembly. And for those of you who want to call in and add your voices to this discussion, the number to call is 717-9591. That number again is 717-9591. We want to hear from you because the people have to talk the things. The reality is that we have been seeing a situation being perpetrated on the people of Tobago for the last 20 years. And the persons who are in the best position to call them out on that have been silent. We'll take this call. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. How is it?
I'm good, thanks.
Good morning. Yeah, man. Nice last night. Very
yes,
nice
it was excellent.
Yes, right. Yes. Listen, my concern this morning is what is really going on in Tobago with the crime situation. It's really getting out of control now. Because I just heard that the guy who got the stray bullet with the police officer, he died. So I don't know what is going on. What is going on in Tobago all of a sudden this election season here, And something people say you really have to really wonder into the question it sometimes. But I really, really concerned about the seriousness of the crime level in Tobago. And I'm not hearing nothing from the authorities here, neither the CHA or anyone, about the concern about the crime situation that has just started to jump out of control into the area, especially with guns and so on. Yeah? So we need to address those issues. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, sir. And you are absolutely right. I could remember living in a Tobago where there was only one murder per year. And usually that murder might be two men probably get away in a bar and somebody hit somebody over the head with a bottle and somebody fall down and that was it. They just ended up dying. And that was the only murder for the year. But we have another call. Let me take this call before I continue. Hello, good morning.
Morning, my dear.
How are you, sir?
Very good. Do me a favor now. I asked him the other day. This tune by Lady Gypsy, Meet Me on the Pavement. Mr. Watson Duke's name is in it with the Rowley problem. So ask him to pull it up and play it for me, please. Because that one have a lot of lyrics in it. Hear that? You hear me? Lady Gypsy. Hello?
Yes, sir, I'm hearing you. I'll make sure the DJ has that.
Yeah, just tell him pull up that for me, please. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. I'll have him look for that as soon as. Let's take another call. The calls are coming in fast and furious. Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, I just lost that one. But anyway, yes, that Lady Gypsy. I've never heard it before, but I'll ask the DJ to look for it and he can play it before I end my segment this morning. But if the caller who spoke before made mention of the crime situation in Tobago, and the reality is that we are starting to reap the fruit of the seed that was planted how many years ago with the proliferation of drugs and guns on the island and the lack of real opportunities for young people, you know. We can go into a very, very long discussion about crime in Tobago. The reality is that another life was lost last night, and I send my condolences to the friends and family of Mr. Frankie James. May his soul rest in peace. My understanding is that he was just an innocent bystander in the situation, and unfortunately, he was struck and he succumbed to his injuries. Let's take this other call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, morning.
You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, sir.
Yes. Good morning, Miss Boris. I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York. And one thing I could tell you, every morning I get up, I wait until you come online at 8. I follow every meeting you guys have. Last night was the greatest. And I just want to say, you guys are doing a wonderful job. Keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing. Let nothing distract you. And as soon as you guys get into the THA, I'll be back in Tobago to live and start a business. Have a great day.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. I mean, I am always happy to hear from our foreign-based Tobagonians who are out there fighting the good fight. And, you know, I mean, when a Tobagonian goes outside, they usually perform with distinction. So I'm happy that you listen to me every morning, and the fact that you want to come home and you want to contribute. This is what we're talking about. We're asking our Tobagonians outside to come home. The crux of my message last night was come home. Wherever you are, come home. And it's not just come home physically, but come home in every way, shape, and form. However you can support. Technology has made it easy for us to reestablish those links so that you may not be physically present in Tobago, but there's so much technology available for you to be able to lend your skills, your talents, your time, your expertise, even to send money back home. I mean, the reality is that if we get more support from our diaspora, independent support, because I'm not even talking about taxpayer-funded initiatives, but I'm talking about if it is that you grew up in the village of Blackrock, for example, you're living outside, you're doing well for yourself and your family, and you want to support some initiative in Blackrock to help the young people in Blackrock, then a bunch of you who are from the community can get together. You can raise some funds on the outside. US dollars are scarce here, so we'll be happy for it. And we can put things in place for some citizen-funded initiatives in our communities, and there's another way for us to help build our communities. Government's role is not just to facilitate, but it also is to encourage other persons, other stakeholders who are in a position to also support the initiatives in the communities to come and lend their support, whether it be financial support, whether it be emotional support, whether it be psychological support, whether it be physical support in terms of infrastructure, whatever it is you have to give. Farley summed it up: a coalition of the competent and the willing. That is what we want at the end of the day. I want to see the best and brightest minds in charge of the Tobago House of Assembly. I want the best and brightest minds leading this country at the level of governance. And for far too long, we've been getting a hodgepodge on both sides. We get some good ones, but we get mostly bad ones. You know, it's like picking a bag of mango. You get 2 good ones and you get 10 bruised ones. I mean, yes, it's mango, but at the end of the day, you got 12 good mango, not so? So we want to have 12 or 24 good mango. Let's pick the best and brightest in our country. And the one thing as a young person that I see that disappoints me is that I see young people join political parties. I see them give up their time and their talents and their passion to political parties, and they are chewed up and spit out. I have seen that happen on the other side. I have seen that happening with political parties in Trinidad, where they have taken our best and brightest minds and basically squeeze the life out of them. So by the time they are done using them, they're dried up. They can no longer be of use to anybody else. And the beautiful thing about the PDP is that it's a party of young people who are building out this party. It's the young people taking charge with advice from the elders, of course, and they are being allowed to make our mistakes, because trust me, we are a new party, we're still trying to figure things out. We will make mistakes, but we are willing to learn from the mistakes that we make. We are willing to do better. We are willing to chart our course. We're willing to watch a big patch of bush and take a cutlass and go through the bush, carving our way to wherever we need to get to, and we are not afraid to do so. So that this vehicle for me was the vehicle that I saw that I can make the greatest amount of impact early in its formation. When you have an institution that is 60-something years old, they say you can't bend the tree when it don't grow up already. And that tree don't grow and old and hard already. You can't bend that tree. So people going on that side thinking, yeah, we go in there and change them. You can't change them over on that side. They don't grow and hard and set in their ways. But when you have a young sapling, because the PDP is a young sapling, and I love our colors, black, white, green. When you have a young sapling, and you could come on board with a young sapling, and you could watch that sapling grow, you could water it, you could give it the nutrients that it needs, and then as it grows, you can bend it and shape it according to how it's supposed to grow. Trust me, the tree that you will get is the tree that you shape. And young people have the chance now to shape this PDP tree. The PDP is not Watson Duke party. The PDP is not Farley party. It's not any one person party. It's a coalition of the competent and the willing wherever they are. Once they have the best interests of Tobagonians and Tobago people at heart, we welcome you. Our arms are open for you. We don't care where you come from. We don't care where you have been. All we are saying is rock and come in. That's what we're saying. Just rock and come in. Yeah? So that crime, one of the reasons why I think we have this crime situation that is starting to spiral out of control in Tobago is that there exists an acute lack of love at the level of the family, at the level of the school, and at the level of the society. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, it's only until we get back to that place where we truly love one another and we're looking out for one another's welfare and we lead with love. Yeah? Because I do not know what precipitated the fight that took place before the shooting. I don't want to make any pronouncements on that matter. But for somebody to get so enraged at another human, to lash out in the way that they did, that speaks something went wrong there. And then, you know, the rest is what happened with respect to the officer and his response. And there are agencies that are tasked with the responsibility to investigate that. So I'm even putting out to my Tobago people, we are hurting right now. 2 young men are dead as a result of one incident. 2 young men are now dead. 2 young men who could no longer contribute to the building of this Tobago. 2 young men who can no longer make mistakes and learn from them and pick themselves up and go again. 2 young men who have left behind family. I don't know if any of them had children, but if they had children, these children are fatherless. Now families are without their sons, nephews, brothers, whoever they were. These are 2 lives that we have lost, and for every life that we lose in Tobago, we are poorer. We are poorer. And we have to look at it like that. Right? And then we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we need to do? What is it that we have to do at the level of the schools, the family, the church, the community to ensure incidents like these do not happen again? There are societies in this world where police don't even carry weapons. They don't even carry firearms. And the societies are peaceful with far more people living there, a larger population by far than Tobago. So what is it that we are not getting right? What are we not getting right at the level of our families? What are we not getting right at the level of our schools, our workplaces, our churches, our communities, our institutions? What are we not getting right? And if we find out where the root cause of the problem is, and we try our very best to address the root cause of the problem, it will take time. But we have to cultivate a culture of peace, a society of peacemaking. That's what we have to do. I watched the video of my PDP Spartans up in, was it Dallaford? And you know, the other party was coming through with their motorcade and stuff. And it was just love. You understand what I'm saying? They have done the worst to me, and it's still love. Because at the end of the day, I have to serve. My aim is not to go in there and just serve PDP people. I aim to go there and serve Tobago people, including the ones who have said the worst things about me, who have cursed my name. I have to serve you too. That if you come to me, I have to put aside what you've done and serve you. And that's probably the hardest part of being a leader or a representative. You have to serve the people who hate you sometimes. You have to serve them. And if you don't have a heart for service, if you don't have a heart of love, if you don't have a heart for people, leave representation alone. Because you're going to go in there, you might win, and you're going to hold grudge. That's what's going to happen. You're going to go in there and you're going to spite people. You're going to go in there and encourage victimization. You're going to go in there and talk down to people. You're going to go in there and jump up on a high horse and forget who voted for you. You're going to go in there and reverse the status quo, and you become the employer and the electorate becomes the employee, and you treat them as such. If you don't have a heart for people, left service alone. I could remember working on the port. I'm telling all you a story. My first couple months on the job, I was a supervisor, so I had a little bit of authority. But I was learning the job, so that particular day I was checking in persons to travel on the ferry. And it was the very first time somebody cussed me. But so anybody who knows the boat knows that the port is the place where all kind of bad word does fly. Or you just literally get paid to get cussed if you're working in that customer service department. And I want to say good morning to those of you who are on the port listening, my former co-workers. Good morning to you guys. I hope you guys are safe. I could remember the first day a guy cussed me. He came up to the window. I asked him, he brought all the tickets and all the IDs. Now, Tobago and Trinidad had kind of conflicting policies. In Trinidad, you can check in a group. Once you had all the IDs. In Tobago, you had to bring everybody in the line to be identified by whoever was checking in. This man did not like that because obviously when he came up from Trinidad, his group was about 15 people. He checked in everyone with their IDs, everybody was outside. So he thought the same thing could have been done in Tobago. Comes up to the window, I'm smiling, hi, good afternoon, sir, how can I help you? I come to check in. I say, okay. So, everybody has to come to the window to be identified with their ticket and ID, and then I would check them in. So can you just go and distribute the tickets and the IDs back to each person and let them come in the line to be checked in? Is the amount of cost I get. You would swear I tell this man about his mother. This man cost me blue is black, is pink, is green, is plaid. And when this man done cost me, my whole body was shaking. My body was shaking. And I could say nothing to him. Let me just take this call before we continue. Hello, good morning. Hello, caller.
Yes. Good morning.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Tasha. Good morning. Yes, I thank you very much for your eloquence way of speaking. But I'm calling from on the western part of Tobago. We are not seeing you all. You can't just sit on the radio station talking every day. That is not good enough. Where are your foot soldiers? We are not hearing anything on the western side. Can you please tell me when you all will be coming to the west?
Thank you for your call, ma'am. So I don't know what is happening in your area of the West, but we have been in the West for the last couple of weeks, and maybe we just haven't reached the area. We will be in Bethel tonight. We are scheduled to also be in Canaan, Bonaccord next week, but we have our teams out on the ground. Thank you for calling and expressing your concern about not seeing me. So I'm on radio from 7 to 9 every morning. And there's a reason why I'm on this platform, because the radio allows me the opportunity to explain some more about the issues that are affecting Tobago people. I cannot speak for 2 hours on a political platform. The trucks are out every day. We have a very, very short election season. And the reality is that I will not reach everybody. I will not physically meet everybody. It is impossible. I am but one human. And I know there are people out there that want to see me, want to shake my hand, want to speak to me. I don't have a problem with that. But if after all I've said on the radio and all I've said on social media and all I've said in interviews on different media outlets, all that has been written in the newspaper, all that has been said about me by members of my party, if that is not enough to convince you to support the party and to support my candidacy for the West, well, I'm not sure if you meeting me is going to do anything much more. But the most that I can tell you, ma'am, is that we only have 13 days to go. We're going to try our best to become more visible. We are cognizant of the fact that in the West, the persons prefer a more low-key campaign. I have my PDP Spartans in the East, you know, they like the big trucks and the music and the noise. But I know in the West, some of the communities are quieter and they prefer the more personal touch, the house to house. They're not really into too much of the big trucks and the kind of thing. So we have to tailor our campaign to suit. So I apologize if we have not reached your area as yet. You are obviously listening to the program, which means that you are listening to me and you have heard me speak about the issues. And if I get the opportunity to meet you, ma'am, I have no problem speaking with you and having a conversation. But just like you, many others are waiting to see me. I can do my best to touch and meet as many of you as I can, but it's not realistic to expect that I will meet every one of you before election day. But rest assured, whatever the outcome is on August 10th, I remain in service to my people. I've given out my phone number freely on business cards and on this forum so that you can also call me to have a conversation. Yeah? So that putting it out there that you know, we're not wrong and that kind of thing, I don't really agree with that, because I know for certain that we have been around, we have been talking to persons, we have our street teams out, we have our canvassing teams out. We don't have as much money as the other party. And people are volunteering their time and talents all the time for this enterprise. And we have to be respectful of the fact that they work. We have to be respectful of the fact that they have families to feed. And we can't give jobs, we can't build houses, we are not in governance as yet. But they have gotten on board with the PDP message because they see something good in the party. They have gotten on board supporting the campaigns of both myself and Mr. Duke because they see something good in myself and Mr. Duke that they think we should have our voices in Parliament on behalf of the people of Tobago. So again, we cannot knock on every single door. There are some of you, I mean, even my own family vexed with me because they say I passed the house straight. I didn't even know where they lived, and I didn't look at the mailbox. I was so busy just trying to touch as many persons that I saw physically. So if I pass your house because I didn't see anybody outside, it's because, you know, I'm kind of trying to deal with what's directly in front of me. And it's difficult to canvass in a time like this, when I thought that our Prime Minister would have done the honorable thing and give all the parties the same opportunity, which is the 60 days from the time you dissolve Parliament to the time that the election is held. 60 days is more than enough time to cover a constituency. We got 38 days. We got 38 days, and this is a problem with our so-called democracy, that we have a prime minister who could hold a nation to ransom with an election date in his back pocket, so that anybody who trying to take his work had to guess when the election could be. How could that be fair? How could that be called democracy? That we had a political party in the form of the Patriotic Front led by Michaela Pandey, who had to bow out of the general election because the time was too short. How is that fair? Newer political parties will never have the kind of resources that larger political parties have. For every $1 we spend, the larger parties probably spend $1,000. That is the disparity between campaign financing of newer, smaller parties versus larger parties in this country. That is why they will never bring campaign finance legislation to the fore. So yes, you will see plenty PNM paraphernalia. You will see plenty PNM trucks. You will hear them all over because they can pay people to do that. The PDP is a grassroots party. The PDP was just formed, constituted properly 7 months ago. And I have to commend all the personnel of the PDP who have been volunteering. There is nobody who has worked in the PDP who is getting pay. People are volunteering their time and their talents. They are volunteering, right? Because they believe in our message. They believe in what we're trying to do. They believe that they can make a contribution, and drop does fill bucket, one cocoa does fill basket. Sometimes when I go and walk, it's only me and 2 other people People have seen that, right? I don't have the big, large flag-waving teams that my opponent has. But I believe slow and steady wins the race. And never forget the story of the tortoise and the hare. So they on the other side look like the hares right now, but I'm a tortoise. I'm chugging along. Yeah? So we have 13 days to go, and I still have a lot of ground to cover. But trust that I would get to your community wherever you are. I know the communities that I still have to touch. I know the communities that I haven't visited as yet. We may have had our caravans going through with the trucks, but I have some walking to do. I have a lot of walking to do. The other thing that I don't have on my side is the weather, because right now it is raining. And it was my thought to actually go and do some walking immediately after the show. But we'll see how the weather goes. Let me just take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yes, my dear. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks.
We will volunteer and pull teams together to assist you in the walking in the West and so on, and concern of the food there. But that money they're spending there in the devil is money that they thief out, money that they steal. You see that whole COVID situation there with the kind of money they release, all of that money inside of there that they stole because they have access to the treasury. And that is the money that they use it. And I said it early in the game that they, long before the election, that is where they're going to get a lot of their money from hidden to run their campaign. That is what they like to do. So that anybody else who's seeing like they're matching them in terms of pound for pound, they question it and so on, because you must always look like you're struggling and so on, and they must run away with everything. But about every TV, radio, newspapers and so on, even places they want to keep meetings and so on, they used to do. So that is, we're not surprised with them with that. But once enough people have heard the message and have and know in their hearts that this is what is to be done on election day, it will be done. So we have nothing to say at all. Yeah.
Thank you, caller, and you're very correct. I mean, I'm of my hope is that people vote on issues. My hope is that people actually vote on the person who they think is best able to represent their views and represent their, whatever it is, advocate on their behalf. I don't want to believe that people just vote on hype. You know, but sometimes maybe it's just a spirit thing. Maybe you just need to, I think, you know, Tobagonians are really kind of into this. They want to meet you. They want to kind of feel your spirit, feel your aura. And that's how they make a determination, so that it may not matter how much you talk on a platform or you're in media or whatever. It doesn't even matter the message. Some people will just vote for you because you look nice. And I've been getting a few of that, you know, based on the billboard that is there with me and Mr. Duke and the billboard that is there in Canaan. You know, people say, oh gosh, boy, she's a sweet little Rasta. So, you know, you're going to get guys who are going to vote for you because you're cute. That's the reality. People vote based on different things. But in this time, I want people to put aside the hype. I want them to put aside the physical appearance. I want all to vote on substance. That is what I want. I want all to vote on substance. That is what I want all you to vote on substance. Vote on substance. See what you're getting. You don't want to buy no cotton bag this time. Tobago, stop buying cotton bag. Because when you buy cotton bag and the thing happen, you're disappointed. No, open your eyes, listen. Look at the persons who are offering themselves up for representation and ask yourself, if I am the hiring manager here, because you are in the role of the hiring manager, is a vacancy that exists. This is your job, to get the best possible candidate to do the job. Tobagonians, you have a very, very important responsibility. We had to talk the things. You are the hiring managers. Along with 39 other constituencies in Trinidad, you all have to vet the applications of the people who want the job. And you have to pick the best candidate. That is what you have to do. Because if you really want the job to get done, are you going to pick the person who you know can't get the job done? It means that you never wanted to get the job done. And if there's a school of thought that you're just going to pick somebody because of your affiliation to them, because of party, wherever the case might be, knowing fully well the person is not a performer. When they don't perform, don't complain, because that is what you chose. You chose a non-performer. So if Tobago people insist on putting back non-performers in seats of power and they don't perform, do not be upset. That is what you chose. Do not be vexed. That is what you picked. You were the hiring manager. You have the power. You are the one who ultimately makes the choice on whatever day is designated to make the choice. After you've properly been presented with the credentials of the people who are offering themselves up to fill the vacant position. So examine the horns. Judge somebody by their substance. Look at performance. Look at what they say. Look at what is being done. That is how you determine who is the best possible person. If you are serious about putting forward the best possible representation for Tobago, right? If you are serious about that, then in your heart you will know who that person is. In your heart you will know. Yeah? So let me read out some texts that I have received, some text messages. The 2 Tobago MPs are also silent on the lacking of audits of the THA, and that's very correct. And that speaks to them not knowing what their roles are. They, more than anybody else, should be most concerned about the lack of accountability at the level of the THA. But it doesn't seem like if they have a relationship with their Tobago Council counterparts, that the only time we see them together is when they walk in the ground for election, and after that they can give 2 hoots about each other. And PDP representation at the level of Parliament is going to work hand in hand with PDP representation at the level of the Tobago House of Assembly. Because we know our role. We know our role as MPs to advance the cause of Tobago day in, day out. 24/7, 365 days. So that it would be important to us that if the Tobago House of Assembly is experiencing an issue, whatever the issue might be, if the people of Tobago, through their representatives in the Tobago House of Assembly, are articulating a view, that at the level of the highest office in the land, which is Parliament, MPs can articulate that view. Because the work of an MP is made easier when the representatives at the level of the electoral districts, when they are performing, the MP's job become easier. Because then you don't have to be on the ground all over the constituency. You're checking in with the area rep. So in the West, you're checking in with the area rep for Canaan Bonaccord. You're checking in with the area rep for Plymouth, Golden Lane, Lekito. You're checking in with the area rep for Buku Mount Pleasant. You're checking in with the area rep for Lambo Signal Hill. You're checking in with the area rep for Scarborough, Calder Hall. You're checking in with your area reps for Bethel, Mount Irvin. So that when the concerns come to them, are channeled through their offices, your work as an MP becomes easier. Because then you're finding out, okay, these are concerns being expressed at the level of the community. What is happening at the level of the THA to address that concern? And if it's out of the scope of the area of the responsibility of the level of the THA, how can I advocate for this issue at a larger forum? And these will be matters outside of the 5th schedule. That if it is that people in Canaan Bonaccord still having a problem for water, and water does not fall under the purview of the Tobago House of Assembly, because WASA is a statutory authority that is under the charge of the central government, that my role as the MP is to talk about the water situation in Canaan Bonaccord in the Parliament and call on WASA to address the issue. That is my role. That if TNTEC still cannot answer why we are experiencing so many power outages in Tobago, even after the commission of the power plant in Cove, because I could remember when it was just Scarborough and I was living in town, and you could count on one hand how much times current going for the year. Now current going every week, every other day in some areas, mashing up people appliances. TNTEC don't fall under THA. But hundreds of customers are being affected by what is taking place with TNTEC, and up to now, nobody has answered to us. That as the MP, I can stand up in Parliament and say my constituents in Tobago West, their appliances are being damaged and destroyed by the amount of power outages taking place on a weekly basis in Tobago. And I'm calling on the Minister of Public Utilities to find out from TNTEC what is the issue. with providing a reliable supply of electricity to the constituents of Tobago West and by extension Tobago, and have them account for what is taking place. Let them explain to the people what is happening. Let them indicate to them what are their areas of redress. Because it cannot be that I buy a fan every 6 months. It cannot be that my flat screen TV that I buy spoil. It cannot be that my fridge air working. It cannot be that my microwave conk out and I cannot get any redress. Nothing for me. And Tiante can't even give me an explanation as to why current go on and I pay in my bill. This is what the MP is for. That is what representation looks like. So that people have been going there to preen themselves and pose in positions, and they did not understand the job. They did not understand the work. That is what it was. You're about minding the people's business. You're correct, my dear. When you mind the people's business, you don't have time for nothing else. If the people's business is always on the front burner, you don't have time for nothing else. I am not in governance, but my phone rings off the hook every single day. Even when I'm trying to take a little nap in the day before I go out to walk, I can't take the nap again because the phone ringing. Somebody always needs something. They want some advice. They want some help. They want us to reach out. And I just have to disappoint a lot of people. Because people want help and government has been failing them, whether it be THA or central government have been failing our people, and they turn to political parties to assist them, and political parties are hard pressed to assist. We have limited resources available to us. Imagine in this day and age, people calling me for food card. I don't work in the THA, I don't work in the government, I cannot give you a food card. And I'm sad to hear that. You know why I'm sad to hear that? Because I want to live in a Tobago where we don't have a food card system. That we could be living so good, that people could have their jobs, whatever their vocation is, their passion is, whatever it is, and they can make a decent living. That even at the lowest levels in our society, we have that living wage instituted so that people could go and buy their own food. And that we could divert some of that money that we spend on food cards into other areas that need social support. Our young men need support. Our young women need support. Our elderly need support. That is what I'm talking about. They need support. Right? They need support. There are areas in society that can do with an injection of money right now. Halfway homes, shelters for battered women. We don't have any of those things in Tobago. Right? You have NGOs now trying to get some of these services up and running, and they need support to be able to do their work. Right? These are the things that I want to see start happening in our space, but I actually want to live in a Tobago where we don't even have to have halfway homes and battered women's shelters, because we have brought our people up to a particular level that violence is no longer a part of our way of life, that we lead with peace and love in everything. Yes, there are some persons who suffer from mental health issues and all of these things, and we have to put things in place, especially for those people. But I'm talking about the average man or woman being equipped to even resolve conflicts within their own space, their relationships, or with their neighbors, or in their family, in their workplaces. We have to elevate our thinking and elevate our behavior. It starts with making better choices. It starts with us doing the internal work, getting to a place of emotional maturity, and that takes time. But we have to admit that where we are at is not a place where we need to be, that there is plenty growth that is required. And I want Tobago, because these are issues that people don't really talk about. A lot of us are not emotionally mature. We are not emotionally intelligent, and it shows in the way that we deal with each other. It shows. Right? So there's a lot of work to be done at the level of the person, at the level of the family, at the level of the schools, the community, the churches, the society on a whole is building blocks. It starts with you. You are the first block. And we build everything out from there. Everything comes from you. And Tobago is perfectly poised to lead the way. Don't let anybody down the road make you feel that you are a burden. Don't let anybody anywhere make you feel that the only thing that you are worth is a food card and a 10 days. God made you for bigger and better things. Don't let anybody reduce your worth to a couple $100, not even US or pounds, TT dollars. Don't let anybody force you to look in the mirror and see yourself as the equivalent of a food card or the equivalent of a 10 days. You have passions. When I hear young people come to me and say, oh, they just want government work, they want an early morning work, I say, let me put that on the back burner for a little while. What is your passion? What you like to do? What makes you happy? Do you have any skills? What are your qualifications? Can we monetize any of those skills and qualifications? Are you interested in business? Do you want to open a business? You're living in this area your whole life. What do you see can we do in this area to improve the lives of the people who live in here? What can we do to make a business out of it? I want my Tobago people to get a business head. Because when you're a businessman and you're a business man, you run things. No politician could tell you who to vote for. The politician had to come to you and beg. That is where I want my Tobago people to get to. I want to be able to walk into any of my communities 5 years from now, less than that, because I've given myself 3 years to transform Tobago West. I want to be able to walk into any of my communities in Tobago West, and then same young people that I see on the block today, I must, in 3 years' time, I must be able to walk into their businesses and spend my money. That is what I want. I want to give all you my money. That is what I want. I don't want to see all you cutting grass on the side of the road. You're young and you're strong and you have sense. You had access to education. There's more that can be done. I'm not saying that we don't need those people. Yes, we need our cleaners and we need people to cut grass and we need all of those things, yes. But for those of you who are destined for more, for those of you who have dreams and aspirations, why be limited by what somebody else tell you that you're worth? What stops you from reaching for the stars? What stops you from building as big a house as you want? Or buying the best vehicle? Nothing stops you from doing that. Right? I want my people to want more. I want my people to know what they deserve. So that in 3 years' time, when I walk into Blackrock, those young men that I spoke to last night, some of them could cook because I walk down in the street and I smelling a fish broth. The fish broth smell good. And I know the fish is fresh because Blackrock is a fishing village. They catch that fish that same evening and bubble that pot. I want that when I come down in that street again, that I see a restaurant. Who cooking, who is the accountant, who working in the front, who's serving food, who helped build the structure. I want to come and sit down in the restaurant. Blackrock Boys, wherever it is you want to call it. I want to sit down and have a nice steaming bowl of fish broth. I want to spend my money by all you. Those young women in Lambeau, that house we fixed, the lady does make some of the best fried chicken I ever eat in my life. I want to come and sit down in your restaurant, Miss Linda. I want to eat your fried chicken, just sit down, comfortable. Know that you're hiring young people in the community, that your restaurant was built by young contractors in the community. That is what I want to see. I want to come and spend my money by all you. That is what I want for my young people. I don't want all of to shackle all yourselves to me. I don't want your vote because you tell yourself I could give you something. I could give you a work or I could give you a food card. That is not how I earn your vote. That is not how I earn your support. I earn your support by empowering you. I earn your support by putting you in a position where you can call the shots. So that when 5 years come, if God spares my life and I offer myself up again, I don't want to come and ask you for nothing, because you see what I did. You see that I performed. You see how your life improved with my representation of you. And if you choose to support me, that support is well earned. Yeah? I want my young people, I want my people in general to rise. I want them to live good. That is the thing that drives me every single day. Every day I go out into my communities and I could project myself into the future, and I could see Buku transform into the perfect tourist town, and I could see Black Rock transform into a hybrid where they're doing tourism activities and they're doing fishing. I could see Goldsboro going over into agriculture in a real way. I could see Lambo Signal Hill getting into sweets and food-based businesses. I could see so much potential. I could see so much potential in my island. So much potential. When I look at my young people, I see so much potential. And it's just for that potential to be realized. It's just for the right kind of ingredients to bring it out. It's just for the right kind of leaders to coax it out. Because I think that young people have been disappointed for far too long by politicians. Politicians have broken the hearts of the young people of this country, both in Tobago and in Trinidad. So when you see them acting out, it's because they are heartbroken. When you see them not taking instruction, because they're heartbroken. When you see them basically giving up on life, is because they are heartbroken, because there was a time that they believed. There was a time when they gave the adults in the community the chance around them, family, school, home, wherever, church, community groups. They gave out adults the opportunities and adults disappointed them. And they have not seen examples of great leadership in a very long time. We have an entire generation who grew up and don't know the name of A.N.R. Robinson. They don't know the name of A.N.R. Robinson. And where you would have thought we would have made the attempts and tried to put our Tobago history as part of our curriculum in our schools, so that we can teach our young ones our history. Imagine our children know about Christopher Columbus, but they don't know about our heroes, our Tobago heroes. Our Tobago heroes. Because we're not teaching them our history. We're not teaching them our history. So when they grow up and they feel no connection to this island, because that's what happens. They grow up here, but they're not of here. Because we have buried a navel string here. They have no connection to here. So they look for all manner of things, looking for connection. Bad company, takes the form of bad company, political parties, all kinds of things, looking for that connection that they lack, when we should have buried their navel strings deep in the ground in Tobago. That they should have a sense of self that emanates from our strong history. That they should know who went before and fought for us and died for us and advocated for us on many different platforms, both locally, regionally, and internationally. So that they have good example of what leadership looks like. They have good example of what representation looks like. They have good example of what real heroes look like. It is sad that we only remember Mr. Robinson one time per year. We should make it mandatory that in our schools in Tobago, because we have responsibility for our education system. What stops them from developing a curricula that includes our Tobago history? Nothing stops them from doing that. We need to educate our people about themselves. Because how do we expect our young people to grow up loving their island when they know nothing about their island's history? What is there to love if they don't know? They grew up here, but they're not of here, right? So that the first opportunity to get they get to leave, they go, because they have nothing holding them here, nothing that brings them back to this place and say, you see Tobago, even though things not going good, I love my island. I want to see us do better. I think I could assist with us doing better. I think I could contribute. I think I could help. That is what patriotism look like. That's why I love the name Progressive Democratic Patriots. That word patriots. We love our island. You don't think we had opportunity to leave? I could have left here a long time. Farley could have left here a long time. Duke don't have to be here. Dr. Faith don't have to be here. And countless other Tobagonians don't have to be here. And many of us have left. I'm asking for those of you who have left, come home. Even if it's once a year, come home. And don't just come home for vacation. Seek us out. Coalition of the competent and the willing. Come with your expertise. Come with your experiences. Come with even your financial resources. Just come home and contribute. Rekindle your relationship with your community when you come. Right? There are those of us who chose to remain. And we are here fighting for what is left. So that we are calling true patriots, but we have to raise our children to be true patriots. We have to put things in place for them to understand where they're born, where they grew up, what their history is. They have some young people who don't even know who their family is. They know what their last name is. They know their father last name and their mother last name. They might go as far as knowing their grandmother maiden name. But they don't know who they're related to. They don't know their family history, all of these things. Because a people that doesn't know where they come from, though, will not have a clue of where they are going. And that is the gospel truth. And we have too many people, too many young people, too many older people too, who don't have a clue of their history. They don't know where they have come from, so they have no clue where they are going. And they speak in vacuums. They operate in vacuums. They make decisions in vacuums. And there's nothing grounding them to the place that they are from. There's nothing grounding them to their village. There's nothing grounding them to the Tobago that they grew up in, that they were born in. And it's time for us to arrest that. Tobago has the perfect population size for us to re-engineer our own development. It starts at the level of our children. As soon as they enter preschool, the brain of a human child is a sponge. They soak up everything. And if you are feeding them good information and good fruit, the only thing you can get from them, the only thing that they could produce is good fruit. But too many young children are being exposed to things that are detrimental to their development, that are negative in makeup. And when they grow up and they have issues, you ask yourself where they get it from. It's because in those developmental years, they were fed the wrong things. Parents, we have to take back up our responsibility to our children. COVID should have exposed to us how many of our kids have been raised by a tablet and a TV. And maybe some of us still need raising. Even as old as I am, I'm thankful for my parents because I still need raising. There are things that I still don't know. There's things that I still have not experienced, that they know and they have experienced. Right? But those of you who have children, you have a responsibility to plant good seeds in your children. Having children is not, we shouldn't take that for granted, because we imprint upon them our experiences and our outlook on life. They soak up everything in their environment, good and bad. So that when we see that we're having a problem with young men now, it didn't start yesterday. It didn't start this morning. It started when they were children. It started when they were in their developmental years. And because we did not arrest it at that point, we are now seeing the effects of it today. And I'm asking myself, Tobago, how many generations are we going to lose going down this road? How many generations are we going to continue to lose, knowing and seeing what the problem is, but not having the courage to deal with it? Part of this is choosing good leaders, yes. But part of it means becoming leaders in your own right. Part of it means being leaders in your houses, mothers and fathers. Your relationships may not have worked out, but you need to be examples to your children. Mothers most time bear the brunt because they are the ones who carry the belly. But fathers, your role is not to be discounted. You are important. You are critical to the development of your children. Do not take that responsibility lightly. Yes, I implore you today. On Talk the Things Tuesdays, anything could go anywhere. But I need to speak to my people today because we have the power in our hands to turn this Tobago around. Politicians can't do nothing for you, and representatives are very limited in what they can do. And money is not our problem. Our problem is the lack of vision and lack of will that exists at all levels. If you don't have a vision for yourself, you can't lead nobody. If you don't have a vision for your family, you can't have a family that works, a family unit that makes sense. We need to have vision for ourselves. We need to hold ourselves accountable to being better humans. And when you hold yourself accountable to being a better human, you influence everybody under your stead. Your children, your siblings, your neighbors, your community, your society, your Tobago. If we have 10,000 good people here, and we are more than that, we probably have 55,000 good people here, and we are more than that. We probably have 59,000 good people here. And we probably have a little bit more than that. Good in a heart. That's what I mean. Good people. So if we have 59,000 good people on an island of 60,000 people, tell me we can't move mountains together? Tell me we can't move mountains together. Tobago, we have a lot of work to do. We can't wait on a central government in Trinidad to craft a vision for Tobago. We have to craft a vision for ourselves. We have to ask ourselves, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, where do we want Tobago to be? What kind of island do we want to have? And when we have achieved consensus as to what that Tobago vision looks like, and we put a timeline to the achievement of that vision, and everybody understands their role and responsibility to ensuring that vision is achieved, then we could go down the road together. I've come to the end of the show this morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for those of you who called. It is a wet Tuesday, July 28th. 2020. We have less than 13 days to go until general election, August 10th, 2020. I implore those of you who are still on the fence, continue to tune in and listen. For those of you who haven't seen me just yet, trust me, I will take night and make day to try to get to you. I know there's some of you that I would not meet before the campaign, but I hope at some point in time we will get to sit and discuss whatever ails you. And if you just want to give some words of encouragement, I am accepting that. I'm accepting all your prayers. I'm accepting the remedies for my throat, because the throat's still kind of giving me some trouble, but it's holding up. So thank you guys for those of you who sent your remedies along. I think I have to take better care of my throat, because when I get home, I'm so tired, so I can't even gargle with the salt water and the baking soda that they told me to use. But I'm just happy to be with you guys every single Monday. The weather is not so good right now, but I hope that wherever you are safe and dry, and that as you go about your day, that you are blessed in all that you do, that you take care of yourself, take care of your family, wherever you are. And you could join me again tomorrow morning for Wake Up Wednesdays. I hope that the weather is a little bit better tomorrow, but you should find us this afternoon at Bethel. The whole might of the PDP Spartan Army would be descending upon Bethel, Mount Irvin, and environs this afternoon. Come out and hear our dynamic speakers, Mr. Watson Duke, Mr. Fali Augustine, myself, Ms. Tasha Grace Boris, PDP candidate for Tobago West. I will be on the platform tonight, and all the other speakers who will be there giving their support and lending their support to the people of Tobago, and reminding them why it's important for you to exercise a better choice this time around. They have shown you what they can give. We will show you what we can do. We have been showing you what what we can do outside of office. All we're asking you is to give us the chance to show you what we can do inside of office. So again, I look forward to meeting all of you later, whether you're coming from the Western End or you're coming from the East. Good morning to the East PDP Spartans. Good morning to the Mason Hall, Mariah, Providence Road, team who is always front and center and present. You guys are my strength and my rock. I have to say good morning to my dad and my mom. Thank you so much for just being here with me and supporting me on this journey. And guys, I mean, stay the course. For those of you who are just simply waiting for August 10th to come, you can't come out and publicly support. You're afraid of the victimization. You're afraid of your little job being taken away. You're afraid because they're trying to instill fear in people. Yeah, that's the reality. We know that's what's happening. So let me talk the things. That's what is taking place. People are being victimized for their political choices. That is what is taking place. But for those of you who are there, I want all to hold a little strain. I want all to stay the course. Just stay the course. We are almost to the finish line. We will make it, and we will make it together. And when we cross the finish line on August 10th, 2020, the night of August 10th, 2020, victory will be ours, and it will be a glorious victory to experience. Thank you, guys. And I'm going to leave you with that Gideon King again to start off, to continue your day. I hope that you stay blessed. I hope that you just have a wonderful day. Continue to be safe. Take care, and God bless.
Love with Tobago pride. One friend you can touch your Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears up on people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the pain and blight. We pro PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No. Just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against PDP. Just set you higher than the eagle. Haters scatter on your left, some scatter on your right. Victory today. This is a black when we touch the road. Him with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tashia Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black like charcoals, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro PDP, this is a black code. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black code. Tomorrow, no. PDP, total black hole. PDP, Charlottesville to PDP, black is beautiful. PDP, yes we black PDP, total black hole. PDP, black is beautiful. PDP, we got black. PDP, Charlottesville to PDP. We're voting for PDP. PDP, we're voting for PDP. Black and we pro. PDP, we're voting for PDP. This is a black hole. PDP, black and pro. No weapon form against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against you. Jah protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP, we black and we pro. tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. PDP, we black and we proud. We voting for PDP, vote on PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Black and proud the guy, love with Tobago pride. One from Duke and Tasha Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears up our people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the pain and blight. We pro PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No. Just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against you. Just set you higher than the eagle. Haters scatter on your left, some scatter on your right. Victory today. This is a black when we touch the road. In with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tasha Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black like charcoal, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro PDP, this is a black gold. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black gold. Tomorrow, no. PDP, total black hole. PDP, Charlottesville to PDP, black is beautiful. PDP, yes we black and PDP, total black hole. PDP, black is beautiful. PDP, we got black. PDP, Charlottesville to PDP. We voting for PDP. PDP, we voting for PDP. Black and we pro. We voting for PDP. This is a black hole. PDP, black and pro. No weapon form against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against you. Jah protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP, we black and we proud. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. PDP, we black and we proud. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Black and proud the guy, love with Tobago pride. One from Duke and Tasha Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears up our people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the pain and blight. We pro PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, no weapon form against PDP, just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon form against PDP, just touch the road, in with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tashia Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black, black like charcoals, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro PDP, this is a black code. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black code. PDP, we black and we pro. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Can we bro? PDP, we're voting for PDP. This is a black hole. We're voting for PDP. Collaboration. PDP, PDP, black and pro. No weapon from against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against you. Protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP, we black and we pro. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. And we pro. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Oh. Black and proud the guy, love with Tobago pride. One from Duke and Tashia Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears to our people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the PNM blind. We pro. This is a black hole. We're voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, no weapon from against PDP, PDP. Just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against PDP. Just set you higher than the eagle. Haters scatter on your left, some scatter on your right. Victory today. This is a black, black when we touch the road. In with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tashia Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black, black like charcoals, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro.
That is
a black hole. PDP, we black and we pro. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, PDP, PDP, vote out black hole. PDP, PDP, Charlottesville to PDP, 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 black is beautiful. PDP, PDP, yes we black. PDP, PDP, total black. PDP, PDP, black is beautiful. PDP. a black kid. PDP, PDP, Charlottesville to voting for PDP. We voting for PDP.